Hi, and welcome to the Kale Houser Leadership Secrets podcast. Today, let's talk about implanting ideas. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Kale Houser Leadership Secrets podcast. My name is Kale Houser, your host and founder and owner of Kale Houser Leadership. Thank you so much for joining me today. Hey, if you haven't had a chance, I wanted to remind you, please take a minute to check out kalehouser.com, the new website up and running and kicking. Let me know what you like on there, what you don't like on there. If maybe something's not working, that would be helpful too. It is easy to miss things and have the gremlins kind of creep up and get you when it comes to websites and things of that nature. Today, I wanted to talk a little bit about the concept of implanting ideas, and specifically implanting ideas in other people, right? This came up a little bit because I was talking with a client of ours recently, and we were discussing about how he had gone through this process of, in his talking to one of his employees, one of his workers, of kind of leading them down this trail of them coming up with their own consequences for an action if they chose not to follow through on what they were supposed to do with this action. And he kind of walked that employee through, like, oh, well, what is a good consequence for that action if you choose not to do it, like you're telling me that you're going to do? And it really kind of got that person, really spinning the wheels. And it had all kinds of kind of third and fourth order effects beyond just the, I'm kind of making this up, but if I don't do it, then I'm going to, 50 lashes, right? Like that's the extreme, but some consequence that's appropriate for, the lack of training, the lack of follow through, the lack of completion of the project. But it allowed that employee to, one, kind of analyze the situation, understand the importance of completing that task, and then applying an appropriate level of negative consequences should they choose by their own choosing, because they were empowered they had the ability and they were totally equipped to complete the task. It would just be purely up to them if they chose to do it or not. But that allows them to take ownership of it and realize that, hey, this is something that needs to be done and I can't just beg this off. And if I do, these are the consequences, and justly so. But it was interesting because the owner that I was talking to went through this process of almost having to put the faith in that employee, right? Having to put their faith of, hey, all right, here's the task, here's the consequences if you choose not to do it, and we'll see what happens, right? It's so easy for all of us, and 100% this is me included, to want to continue to micromanage, continue to check up. It's like, oh, hey, are you doing it? You said you were going to do it. Have you done it yet? Are you doing it yet? Well, no, there's a timeline. Hey, I told you I'd get it done by this weekend or by 5 o'clock tonight or, the end of my shift. There has to be a point where after you've gone through the process of implanting this idea in this person and you've seen them take ownership of it, you've seen them understand the consequences, whether they're good consequences or bad consequences, right? It could easily be a reward at the end of the completion versus a negative consequence. You have to give them that opportunity to perform. That's what being a leader is. You show them the way, but you can't carry everyone on your back. You understand this. And this is where a lot of small businesses get into a lot of trouble, is they're trying to do everything themselves. They're trying to carry everyone on their back because, you're right, nobody's as good at doing this thing as I am. Like, I'm the expert pizza maker. I'm the expert salesman. I've been doing this my whole life. I'll show you how to do this and I'll just carry you on my back. Instead of implanting these ideas into your people that are there to help support you and grow your business, right? This is why you have employees. And allowing them to take ownership and allowing them to grow into that role and allowing them to fail and succeed, but also understand and accept those consequences of each failure and success without constantly, doing this. And this is easily relatable to my kids right now. One of the rules, if they want to play video games, and we're not huge video game people, it's something that they get to do occasionally, although admittedly a little bit more this summer than normal because some of our summer camp plans fell apart, is the dishes. The dishes must be done before you even turn on the console, touch a controller, or anything like that. And they've failed at this before, and they had swift consequences, i.e. not getting allowed to play for an extended period of time. But now that it's known, they understand the expectation, they understand the rules. I don't feel the need every time if they say, hey, can we play video games? I no longer ask them, did you do the dishes, right? Is the dishwasher unloaded? Is the dishwasher loaded? All those things. It is just, that is the accepted standard and the normal. They understand the consequences and they choose to take ownership for it or not. I will be, fair and honest. And a couple of weeks ago, they chose to, in their excitement to get to play video games, they overlooked unloading the dishwasher. And lo and behold, I was a man of my word, and they got the video games taken away from them for an extended period of time. But because of that consequences, and they understand that this is an appropriate level of consequence, right? I'm not like giving them spankings or anything like that for forgetting. It's just a matter of, hey, this is something you were wanting to do. Now you don't get to do it in the form of video games. No big deal. But I didn't feel the need to constantly check up on them like, hey, are the dishes done? Are the dishes done? Have you done the dishes? Like, that's not a thing anymore, because I have implanted in their mind the idea and the acceptance of this is how we do things in our household. And this is the same thing in business, right? You have certain key KPIs, key performance indicators that have to be done. And it's the way you measure success in your business, whatever that is. Number of clients you have, number of sales you make, number of pizzas you make, whatever that is for your business. But to do this, once you've had that discussion, right? Because you can't have this without a discussion of expectations and standards and things of that nature. And you do that through your core values. Your core values, if you haven't gone through this process and developed them and really thought about them and then how to implement, and not just like type them up and put them on the wall, but actually discuss them and implement them and make them a part of your culture, that is how you measure the success or failures of these things that you have implanted. But it takes so much patience and faith and absolute trust, not absolute trust, but takes a lot of trust in that person to essentially you're firing and forgetting. You're like, oh, here's the thing, and now go do it. And you have to either let them do it or not do it, right? And then the other key is you have to follow through on the consequence. If you've set up some sort of negative consequence or positive consequence, you've said, hey, I'll give you $500 if you get this task done by the end of the day, and they get it done, right? Because they're motivated. They want to take their significant other out to a really nice dinner that night, and they're expecting $500 bills in their hand at the end of the day. You have to be able to deliver that, right? That works both ways. But a lot of people think of, when I say this concept of implanting ideas, because I am talking about you as the leader implanting ideas into your people, those that you have been given charge of leading. Some people will take this as this is being manipulative. And that is absolutely how a lot of our culture sees this, and certainly in movies, right? Because it makes great drama plots in our pop culture and our movies, is a way to, we're sliding in these underhanded ideas and trying to convince people to do things that they really don't want to do, and we're kind of manipulating them into a corner. You're almost your classic used car salesman kind of mentality and mindset of, walking people into these traps and getting them to say yes when they really want to say no, all these types of things. And that's not what I'm talking about at all. Although to a degree it is a little, in the classic sense of the word, manipulative, in that you are suggesting something that you're hoping that they are going to follow the mental trail that you're trying to lay down for them to come to the same conclusion that you have come to, as in the result that you want to have, come out. And in this scenario of the client that we were talking about, there was a training that needed to be done, and it needed to be done by the weekend or by the start of the next week. And the employee, said, yep, I'll do it on my own, at home, this kind of online training. And well, nothing in our past has shown that you have done this on your own, or you've taken the initiative of doing it on your own time. So why is this now? And they walk through this process of, consequences of what happens if the training doesn't get done and all those types of things. But he implanted that idea by virtue of bringing up past experiences like, okay, awesome. That's the absolute ideal. I would love for that to happen. You complete this training on your own. That way I don't have to babysit you, right? That frees up time on my end as the leader. But you have done nothing to indicate this. So, hey, what would be a good consequence if you, again, choose not to do it, even though you're telling me you're going to do it? We need a little bit something more than just face value your word, because in the past that hasn't worked out, right? Rarely in human existence, when we don't have any sort of accountability or consequences, do we actually, do things that we don't necessarily want to do, like online training. Nobody really likes online training very much, even though it is for the benefit of our job and our career and all those types of things. However, by the owner and the leader implanting those ideas of leading them and them developing their own consequences, that really changed the entire mentality of how that person approached this task. It was no longer a, hey, do this because I tell you to do it, as the leader, as the business owner. It's do this because you understand the benefits of it. You understand how important this is for us to continue doing business, right? To continue our continual education, those types of things. A lot of industries have that type of thing where they have continuing education, where they have to keep, up to date on standards and laws and rules and all those types of things. But when it comes down to, again, I mentioned KPIs earlier, and your core values is because that's how you measure the success or the failures in this instance. Once you've implanted that idea, they've come to the hopefully similar conclusion that you are hoping them to do or to come to. And when it comes time to, check the work, to grade the paper, to, mark the A, B, C, D, or F in the grading system, you have to have something to measure it against. And that's really where your core values and your key performance indicators come in. So I wanted to kind of put that in your brain and hopefully implant that idea in your head as you go through this process, especially if you're dealing with things that maybe aren't the most fun thing to do, right? Online training or additional coursework that has to be done for your industry. Certainly a sales, is a continual learning process, and you want people to get better at that, whether it's reading a book together as an office or any of those types of things. You get the point, is just implanting that idea and helping them come to the same conclusion that you already have as the leader. Because that's just what it is. They don't have the same vision you have, right? Because they're not the ones that started the business. They don't have the same drive that you have. They're not the ones that put all their finances on the line to start the business and open the shop and buy the products, right? These are people that are there to support you initially because you've promised some sort of salary or benefits. But as you bring them onto your culture and you bring them onto your cause in the form of your business, you really need to start implanting in them to where they take that ownership as well for the success of the business, which includes the success of themselves, right? If they lose their certification to do the thing that you hired them for because they didn't log X amount of continuing education credits this year, that's a problem, right? So help them get to that path. Show them the end goal and, maybe one or two pathways to get there, but really your job as the leader is to guide, not necessarily to carry, if that makes sense to you and that subtle difference there. So yeah, let me know what you think. Drop a comment. Is this something that, am I way off base on, or is this something that you're like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense? Or is all implanting ideas just really bad manipulation of your employees, right? Is that the case? Yeah, that would be interesting to hear about that. And if you haven't had a chance yet as well, make sure you join the Facebook group, Leadership Secrets. You can find that through my Facebook, which is Kale Houser or Kale Houser Leadership. So you can get all this content and things of that nature and ask questions, and we can really start to become interactive and start learning from each other a lot more. All right, I appreciate everybody. Please like, comment, and subscribe so you get notified of new episodes as they're coming. Got some pretty legit guests coming up in the future here, especially in July this next month. I'm super excited for, and I can't hardly wait to have that happen. Yeah, as always, thank you so much for joining me. I really do appreciate it. I hope you're having a fantastic afternoon no matter where you're at in the world. Bye.